Welcome to our meeting tonight. This meeting is being held to allow council to take a further look at the 2024 budget issues. It's being held in the Sonora Center gym in order for residents to attend in person and listen to the discussions and debates on particular issues, and hopefully understand the reasons for either keeping projects in the budget or adjusting them. Town directors are present to answer questions that council may still be needed to be answered. This meeting is also aired on the town YouTube site. Administration has reviewed the motions that were made at the last open meeting on February the 15th, and the budget has been adjusted to acknowledge those changes. Some of the capital projects have already been started prior to the financial plan being rescinded back to third reading. We do know that some projects can be adjusted, but they cannot be deleted. Delaying necessary maintenance and replacement will very likely mean increased costs and reacting to immediate repairs, rather than being proactive and planning for the future. So we must pay close attention to them. We expect the tone of this meeting will be respectful to all those present. Disrespectful, discriminatory, defamatory conduct will not be tolerated. That includes yelling, chanting, cheering in the room, which will not be permitted. Those who do not abide by these rules will be asked to leave. We will now start the meeting by asking our finance director, Mr. Zackel, to outline any changes that have been made in the budget since our last budget meeting on February the 15th. Thank you, Mr. Zackel.
Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. So before council is a revised budget package. There is one correction to note, and that's on page 17. And that was a transportation, recreation, and building contribution for asset management reserve fund. The original amount was $159,781, and council had passed a resolution to reduce that to $100,000. That is a reduction of $14.67 on a municipal tax base. So in the budget package, it was showing a 24.39% overall increase. It's now down to a 24.01% increase. So all of the other council resolutions have been made to the financial plan and budget. What was added into the budget was the 2023 carry forward projects that were noted in there. And likewise, there were a couple new projects that were added in that we can speak to. First one I would speak to is our water service extension. There was a project where developer contribution was paying for water service connection. We had an agreement with the contractor to get with the owner to get this done. They paid their monies, but we want to make sure it's included in the 5-year financial plan. And at this point in time, I'd like to pass it back to council.
Thank you very much. I will now ask council if they have any further adjustments that they would like to make to the budget, or any concerns that they would like to bring up at this time. Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before we start, I'd really like to thank the fire chief and his staff and all the volunteers in town that helped put out that fire a couple of weeks ago on Main Street. I think they should really deserve a round of applause. I know we got to be quiet, but they should get accolades for what they did and persevered to keep it contained. Thank you very much, Mr. Courtmeyer. On another note, I just want people to understand from my point of view, it's not us and staff competing here. We're all trying to do what we feel is right for the town to move forward. So again, instead of lambasting staff, we should be thanking them for what they do. And with that, let's get into the budget. Thank you. I'd like to turn to page 17, please. And I'd like to, I guess I got to talk into this thing. I'd like to make a resolution that transportation, recreation, and building be taken out of the budget and the addition of sustainable funding as per financial plan, 150,000 be taken out of the budget.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? I'm sorry, we do not, Councillor King.
No problem.
No. Go ahead, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to refer to page 99. And I would like to reduce the asset management plan from $1,323,300 down to $1 million.
99, sorry. For those of you who have the budget in front of you, page 99. Mr. Zackel, has that been looked at before? No. Okay. So this would be on the sewer operating budget. That's what this is, correct?
Sewer assessment plan.
Yeah. So it's the asset management plan that you'd like to move down to?
1,300 to $1 million.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor King is seconding that. Is there anyone who wishes to talk about this? Councillor Chung.
Thank you. With that reduction,
Corey, you okay?
still got feed.
I'll step
Okay,
back.
yeah. Thank you. With that type of reduction, what are we looking at in terms of potential service level interruption or debt servicing in the future? This is kind of a question that's for, I guess, Director Zackel.
So basically, that's going to reduce our revenues by 1.616 million over a 5-year period in time. So what you would see, if all projects remain within the 5-year capital plan, we would see additional borrowing within the 5-year plan for 1.616 million.
Thank you. I might go on a little bit of a tangent here, but like, what are we doing here? Because 1 million of borrowing over 20 years is $870,000 in just interest, which is $74,000 a year in interest. That's over 2% tax increase just to service the debt. Last 2 weeks ago, for those who watched the Community of the Whole, it was very eye-opening. REZO, which is a nonprofit group of academics, came and assessed our groundwater. To summarize, our cost for that project now just went from 16 to 30 million for groundwater. A more sustainable, viable option is to pull from lake water or surface water, which would be 40 million. So the more we axe the asset management plans, sustainability funds, and take away from reserves, we'll have to pay in interest. And it's not that it's not a younger population that's going to be servicing that debt. It's in 5 years. That means prolonged property tax increases over decades. So I ask again, like, what are we doing here? Like, the numbers don't lie. It's not an engineering firm that is making these estimates. I mean, they're soft estimates from a group of academics. So there's going to be changes, but that's the ballpark. Those are the numbers we're looking at. So by cutting more, we are going to pay for more in the future, and over that 20-year span, it's going to hurt everyone worse. So what are we doing?
Thank you, Councillor Chung. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this? Would you? Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship.
And then Councillor Poderica, and then Councillor King.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to comment or echo those comments or by Councillor Chong. Part of the reason why we're in this situation right now is 10, 15 years ago when municipalities like ours should have been planning for the future and planning to address the issues of today and address the issues of tomorrow. It didn't happen. It didn't happen to the extent it should have. And we're paying for it now. And we're going to be paying for it in the future. And every cut that we make today is going to prolong us pulling off that Band-Aid, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt more and more and more. It's going to delay us from actually being able to do what we need to do to address the issues, on water, to address the issues on our wastewater treatment. We know those systems were built. They were built 30, 40, 50 years ago. We know we've got pipes in the ground that have exceeded their life expectancy. They need to be changed. They need to be addressed. And we're in a situation right now where we don't have the funds. Borrowing isn't the best option. Definitely isn't the best option. We can't continue to ignore that these issues exist. I know that was a habit previously. It isn't going to be the habit of this council, and it shouldn't be the habit going into the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor King.
I guess I just wanted to ask if this happens to get passed down to 300,000, what type of percentage would we be saving in our taxes? Approximately.
The reduction to the average single family resident for the sewer user fee would be $54.66.
I'm concerned as well about cutting anything more to the water and the sewer funds. I think we have pared them down quite a lot after the last meeting. And I think we need to be very careful what we are asking for and what we want to cut. Many places up the valley, many of the communities up there send out a separate water and sewer bill, and they do it 2 or 3 or 4 times a year. We have been in the habit of sending out our tax notice with the water and sewer added onto it. So people see a huge increase all at once when we should be looking at the municipal portion of it, which happens to be what the other people up the valley are looking at. You see an 8, 9, 10% in municipal portions on some cases. They don't add in the water and sewer. Many places, they pay for water and sewer on a quarterly basis or every 2 months. We haven't been doing that, and I think we're going to have to do that because other places pay a lot more than we are doing. We just happen to be asking for it all at once, and I think that's going to change. I'll continue on. So we have a motion on the floor to move the asset management plan from 1,323,000 down to 1 million. Is that correct? Is that the motion on the floor? Thank you. So I will call for a vote on this. All in favor of the motion? Against the motion? That has failed. That motion has failed. Is there something else that people would like to bring up now? Councillor Chong.
Thank you. Just one last follow-up point on that last motion. What we would lose 1.6 million over 5 years in terms of revenue. So we need to borrow that. So with the current interest rates over 20 years, we would, in essence, pay $1.4 million in interest. So I want to make sure that these numbers are very, very clear as to what we're dealing with right now. No, not at all.
Is there anything else that would like to be brought up? Councillor King.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess page 59. This isn't necessarily to take it out. I just want to explain to the public, what is this network improvements? Because if you turn the page back to 57, we're just in the middle of a master plan on transportation. So is this kind of getting ahead of ourselves, or is this a necessity? Brownstein?
Can you leave, Corey, can you leave me alone? Because I'm back. No, you can't. Okay, go ahead. Mr. Brownstein, could you answer? Thank you.
So these are the projects that were identified in the Active Transportation Network Plan that was done last year. These were brought before the committee, and the committee voted on this one particular aspect of a $2.3 million program to look at for this year. This is again council's discretion. If they feel that they don't want to kind of put in any active transportation related works in, that's council's decision.
Go ahead, Councillor
I guess I
King.
relate to the 75,000. What network are you going to improve for 75,000?
These were the quick wins identified in the Active Transportation Network Plan. So this is just basically some line painting within the community to define bike lanes in certain areas.
Quick wins, can you explain that? I can't carry you.
Sorry, Councillor King. So these are for bike lanes and painted type activities within the road system. So I think there was a section of 74th. There was a section of 62nd. There were sections within the community that would have particular bike lanes identified. And they were just some quick wins to show that we were moving forward with some active transportation activities. And that is the only reason that is in the budget. So if council feels that it is inappropriate, council can delete it.
Yeah.
So are you,
Yeah, that's it. I just want information.
you're just asking a question, not making a motion?
No.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else? Councillor Bennett, you had something else?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, page 167. Under communications, I have some other ones for water and sewer, but I guess those aren't going to go anywhere. They were the asset management plan. Page 167 under communications, we have 100,000 there to replace our or to put a new communication person in. And I believe we had a fellow retire a couple of years ago, Matt, from the IT department. That hasn't been replaced. So I'm wondering if we can get rid of this 100,000 and use the funds that we put away for that position and make an IT person, IT communication person without spending this 100,000.
Mr. Zackel, could you comment on what has been or? Oh, Miss. Could someone comment on go ahead, please, Mrs. Hilson.
Thank you, Your Worship. That motion was already brought to the last budget meeting and it was defeated. So we would need to check to see if Councillor Bennett was on the prevailing side of the motion, whether to bring it forward or not. But as it sits, the meeting, that motion was defeated by council at the last.
I think it was it was looked at that time. I'm wondering if this is a separate motion that we look at some money that we had set aside for the executive assistance position. And I didn't know. I think that was what it was. Am I correct? Go ahead, Mrs. Hilson.
The motion was moved by Councillor Chong, seconded by Councillor Bennett, that the vacant executive assistant funding be reallocated to the communications coordinator position. That motion was defeated by Mayor McCordoff, Councillors King and Potterica.
Thank you very much. So we can't bring that one up again. Okay. Someone else can? Okay. Then I will bring up, no, I can't bring up motions. I don't think I can. Two or not? The chair cannot bring up the motion.
I guess on the communications person, as I related, we did have a staff person working on communications and IT. So I'd like to see this brought down to 50 or 60,000 instead of 100,000. And then look and see if there's funding left over from the position we didn't fill. I'd like to make a motion, bring this down to 50,000.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Chong? So is there anybody who'd like to speak to that? It's not going to cost, it'll cost more than 50,000. So I'm just wondering if there's any options to how we would make this position work. Councillor Chong, could you can speak to it if you like.
So just to clarify, Councillor King, did you want to take 50,000 from the EA position and subsidize the communications? Okay.
So you're the seconder of that?
Yep.
Would you accept that change, that explanation? So the position, the 100,000 that was set aside would be changed to 50,000. It's been moved and seconded, and is that correct? Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this motion? I will ask for a vote on this. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. Anything else? Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess I just like bringing things up.
Okay.
Page 62, 63, 64 relating to vehicles. I'm just curious. I understand these trucks are 20 years old and there's some maintenance issues. But I'm just wondering if it ever got looked at of maybe putting a new motor and transmission in these older trucks, and that way they're good for 3 more years instead of buying a new truck. Say on 62 and 63.
Go ahead, Mr. Brownstein.
Sorry, Councillor King, that is a good question. I have never seen that in my career about replacing motors and transmissions on municipal vehicles, but if that's the will of council, I will look into it and get you some numbers.
Well, I don't know how we can, I don't necessarily want to take them out, but I need more information on these 62 and 63 as another way of financing trucks for 30 or 40,000 instead of 200,000. To me, makes a lot of sense.
May I ask, Mrs. Robinson, did we not have a motion the last time about vehicles? Was one taken out? We moved it from 3 to 2. I'm sorry, do you have that motion?
Yeah,
Thank you.
so it was that one fleet light truck replacement be deferred to the 2025-2029 budget.
Thank you. So that has already been done.
I look at it as that was a motion a month ago. Now we're re-looking at this. We're still haven't passed third reading. So I think there's opportunity to look at it again. My understanding, is that correct, Ms. Hilson?
Sorry, if that is the wish of council, absolutely.
Yeah.
Councillor Chong.
Thank you. With that said, then I would move the deferral of the remaining 2 to 2025 to 2029 while we explore other viable options that may be more cost effective.
Which page are you on, please?
62.
62.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. And did you get that motion, Mrs. Robinson? Perhaps Councillor Chong could say it again, please.
That I would like to defer the remaining 2 light truck replacements to 2025, 2029 while we explore more feasible options.
Thank you. And that was seconded. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to that? 2024 to 2025? Yes. Okay, I thought you said 20. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Oh, Counselor Bennett seconded that motion. All right, so is there any other comments on this motion? Go ahead. Counselor Potterica.
Thank you, Your Worship. I understand these are covered in our vehicle fleet management plan, asset management plan. Again, the reason why we continue to be in the situations that we found ourselves in is because we never seriously addressed asset management. As we know, in the last couple of years, the cost of fleet has increased significantly. The cost, the time to find fleet has taken longer and longer. In some cases, 1.5 to 2 years. What this asset management plan allows us to do is to plan for the future, to cost for the future, so that when these trucks do come up to end of life, and I think at 20 years on a municipal pickup has done a pretty good life, it allows us to move forward to find the right replacement. I know the report that was done previous to myself and Councillor Chong joining this council addressed that, and I feel that that plan addresses the needs for the future. So,
Counselor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I fully support moving these to the next year so we can get more information, because I think there's other ways of fixing these trucks up to get a couple more years. My understanding, they don't really leave town or very often, maybe the odd occasion. So to me, they're not getting driven hard. They're just getting driven. How many miles a day would you say they put on them?
Depends on the piece of equipment, Councillor King. Some of our water and wastewater operators put a lot of miles on our vehicles. I had one truck hit 200K over its 10-year life expectancy.
Yeah.
What I'd like to add is that in the report, it says that they're anticipating a 2025, 2026 delivery. My assumption is that this vehicle is not paid for until it arrives. Am I correct, Mr. Brownstein?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Thank you. So it's quite possible that that having these ordered and not being here till 2025 or 2026, we're not going to pay for this. Certainly not this year. Is that correct, Mr. Zakel? Yes. So I'm frankly quite fine with leaving it in at this point, because I don't think it's going to come off our budget this year.
Or though.
Yep, I get it. So the motion is, could you read it back, please, Mrs. Hilson or Mrs. Robinson?
Okay. That the remaining 2 fleet truck replacements be deferred to the 2025-2029 budget, and that administration explore other options.
Thank you very much. And that was moved and seconded. All right, I will ask for a vote on this. All in favor? Against? Thank you. That motion carried. Thank you. Anything else, Council? Councillor King?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess we'll just move on to page 64. A new vehicle and ops tech kind of / bylaw would use it. Now, my understanding, you bought a truck similar to this last year, or is this kind of completely different than the one you purchased? Because we have a utility truck for staff to move stuff around.
Go ahead, Councillor, or Mr. Brownstein.
So this truck is to provide additional staff with a vehicle. Currently, I do not have anything in the fleet for these individuals.
Can I make one more comment? Then I guess we're kind of ahead of ourselves. We haven't passed whether we're going to hire new staff yet. So again,
I want to make this clear, Council. These are existing staff members that do not have access to a vehicle. So this isn't for new staff. This is existing staff that doesn't have access to a vehicle.
Anything else, Council? Yes, go ahead.
I just got to keep asking questions. Page 74, you're talking about 150,000 to increase office space at the operations yard. Now, my understanding, this would be for an architect to do up some drawings. Is that what it basically is? 150,000 seems kind of expensive to make up some blueprints.
Councillor King, this will be not only for architectural, but structural, space optimization. We'll also be looking at mechanical drawings as well for the shop. So this is not just architectural drawings. This is actually a full detailed plan for upgrades to the operational services yard.
All right.
Thank you. Anything else? Councillor Bennett, do you have anything else? That was it. Go ahead, Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just keep asking here. Page 108. And I guess, and it ties in with 141, one's for sewer and one's for water. If these got passed, would these be certified people or kind of just workers?
So these will be for water and wastewater operators. They are certified operators. So these would require their water distribution, wastewater collection, water treatment, and wastewater treatment designations.
So they'd have certification to be able to.
They'll be trained in order to meet the requirements of our water system, our wastewater system, our water treatment system, and our wastewater treatment systems.
So
yes,
couldn't
they
you
will be
really
trained.
hire a person that's already had some of this training or half of it?
We're having difficulties trying to find individuals to come to Osoyoos to work. So this would probably be a training opportunity for somebody either within the community or someone we can find that may want to move to this community.
So just so I understand it correctly, you say 132,000. Does that include the wages and the training or just the wages?
So this is wages, this is loaded rate. So this includes wages, benefits, overtime, et cetera, for a typical water wastewater operator.
So you have to come back for more money for training then?
Training is within our operational budget, Councillor King, and there's
Okay.
actually a line item within the operational budget for training.
Thank you. I gotta keep asking here. So I know you kind of talk like we have a sewer and a water department, but don't some of them kind of cross work on certain occasions? I'm finding it difficult to hire one for sewer, one for water, when maybe one could do both.
So Councillor King, these are defined in each utility. So the utility is separated within the budget. So one is paid for out of the water and one is paid for out of the sewer. Yes, they do both activities. So one may do water one day, one may do wastewater one day. The FTE amounts are put into the water system and sewer system to show that each system is paying for their required FTEs.
Thank you. Anything else? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Page 112. You talk about the sewer mainline improvements at Magnolia Place. I guess, is that kind of digging up the ground and putting new pipes in? Or have we looked at putting a liner in the pipes that's there already and kind of save some money?
So we've looked at all options for this particular project, and unfortunately, we do have to dig up the road and redo the pipe system. The pipe is graded in the wrong direction. So we end up getting significant backflow events and sewer backup events along that section of road. So we would actually have to dig the pipe up and replace it.
So if I'm hearing you right, we couldn't use a liner? I mean, and don't dig up the road, it's a lot cheaper?
No, because the pipe is graded in the wrong direction, lining it won't solve our problem. We have to dig it up and grade it in the right direction so the poop is flowing in the right direction.
Can't you go at the other end and put the liner the other way?
No, Councillor King.
Okay, just gotta ask.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just,
Anything else?
thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't want to dictate this meeting, but I'll relate to page 118. I like a motion that we take these smart cover manholes out of the budget. And I guess I really relates for 115,000. How many were we getting?
Excuse me, people in the audience do not talk, please. Go ahead, Mr.
I believe,
Brownson.
Councillor King, we're getting a half dozen for $115,000. So
For how many?
6.
6. Okay, well, I'll make a motion. We take this out of the budget.
Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Bennett is seconding it. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this motion? Go ahead, Councillor Chong.
Thank you. What was the rationale or the purpose of implementing smart cover manhole diagnostics?
So this was identified in the wastewater master plan as a way of determining our actual flow capacities within our sanitary sewer system to better facilitate upgrades, to address overflow events, to address surcharging, et cetera. So they'd be placed in different sections of the utility over any next 20, 15, 20 years to better demonstrate what our sanitary sewer system is doing and allow us to better calibrate our sanitary sewer model.
Thank you. It seems to me that they can, that they're capable of detecting levels of hydrogen sulfide and other chemicals, I'm pretty sure. Thank you.
Follow.
Counselor Chong?
Thank you. Without these smart covers, what impact in terms of service level are we looking at?
Direct impact to service level would be negligible. This would again look towards asset management and making sure that our pipes are being sized correctly when we go in and do massive upgrades, when we go in and do relining, and we start to allow for future development within the community.
Thank you. Okay, where are we at? We don't have any motions yet.
Motion on the
Sorry,
floor.
the motion is to remove this. Councillor Bennett has seconded that. I'm correct. All right. If there's no more comments on this, I will call the motion. All in favor? Against? Thank you. That passed. That will be removed. Anything else? Councillor King?
Thank you. I guess this is more a question. On page 120, you talk about pump renewal wastewater pump station for 300,000. Is that like the whole station you're building or just replacing a few pumps?
Councillor King, this would be replacing individual submersible pumps at about $550,000 a pop. You would be replacing 6.
So you're talking about 6 pumps you're going to replace? Okay, thank you. I just want people to understand.
Mr. Brownstein, how often do submersible pumps need to be replaced? Seems to me I had one and it only had a guarantee for 1 year and my septic tank. Is that reasonable?
So your worship is done by hours, amount of time that they've been rewound, amount of time that they've been serviced. So it's all dependent on each pump station and its runtime. So we'll go through and look at individual pump stations and determine which stations will be addressed the first and second and last.
Can I ask how often you change pumps in a lot of these pump stations? Do you have extra on hand?
We do have extra pumps on hand for some of our key sanitary pump stations. We pull them once a year, sometimes twice a year, depending on the activity in each station.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor King.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Page 128. I know it didn't get passed under the sewer budget, but I'm just wondering here that asset management plan at 1.3 million, if we could bring that down to $1 million, I'd put a motion on the floor to bring that down to 1 million.
Is there a seconder for that? There is not. So I'm sorry, we won't be doing that one. Anything else?
Oh, yeah.
Councillor Chong.
Thank you. Kind of going back to the Magnolia project, why did this happen? Like, why was it, who installed it? Like, why?
Councillor, I can't tell you why it happened. All I know is that the pipe is graded in the wrong direction and we are continuing. All I know is that it happened. I don't know why it happened. And we continually have to flush that section of pipe in order to maintain service levels within that particular neighborhood. So there's a manhole in the middle that's probably sunk over time and that's caused the backgrade.
Go ahead, Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Page 146. First of all, I really want to thank Mr. Bernstein because at the last meeting, we actually asked for 5. We cut it down to 2. Now I see he's actually cut it down to 1. So I thank you in that regards. That saves us $150,000. My question though, where's the Fairways booster station?
Councillor King, that is the booster station at the end, at the bottom of Dividend Ridge, and it'll be the only booster station that is not impacted by a surface water plant at this time.
All right. Thank you.
Over here.
Councillor Chong.
Thank you. Can we go back to page 74 regarding the increased office space design? Can we reduce the scope of the design and thus reduce the project budget to 100,000 as opposed to 150?
I have no problem with that, Councillor Chung. If we want to reduce it to 100,000, we can reduce it to 100,000.
Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to reduce the budget for the design from 150 to 100,000.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Bennett has seconded that. Anyone else like to speak to this? Okay, we will ask for a vote on this one. All in favor? Against? Thank you. That carried. Anything else? Councillor King.
A general question to Mr. Bernstein. How many reservoirs do we have in town?
We have a total of 4.
4. So if I understand how the water works, it comes out of the ground, sort of. You pump the water up to the reservoir and then it pumps back into town. Is that correct? That's what gives us our water pressure?
The head pressure in the reservoirs gives you water pressure within the distribution system as well as the wells when they're active.
So you talk about closing one of them down to clean it. Will that impact a certain area of town for water?
We currently don't shut down our reservoirs to clean them. We try to do it either with mechanical cleaning via an ROV, or we bring in divers when they can't access our reservoir sites. We will not take our reservoirs offline because yes, you would be correct. We would lose water capabilities in Dividend Ridge as well as the 402 pressure zone, which would include 107th Street and parts of town as well as parts of north of town.
Okay.
I just want to ask one more question. Mr. Brownstein, you talk about a water treatment plant maybe down on Maple, and we have about 6 or 7 wells, I presume, but that at the start, it would only impact about 3 of the wells would go into that system. So what happens to the other wells? They just feed in and we get all the problems still?
So Councillor King, I'm cautious to go down this path right now.
Okay.
We are looking at surface water as a potential source. With a surface water treatment plant, it will not be going on Maple Avenue. We're gonna have to look at a fairly significant footprint to facilitate a plant of that magnitude. So the Maple site is currently off the plate, even from a groundwater perspective. It's too small, and flood elevations become a concern as well, and putting in a 3-meter retaining wall around the entire treatment site would probably not be very well received.
Thank you.
So what Mr. Brownstein is referring to is the last report that we had at a council meeting on February the 27th. We're looking at a potential for community water system improvement and treatment options, and the cost for that system will be coming back in April for both systems. One, we have wells right now which supply the water. There seems to be problems with all of the wells in the town, and so that's why we have stopped drilling 2 more. It looks like the best option would be to use surface water from the lake instead. And so we need to look at the costs of taking water from the wells and treating it, or looking at the water from the lake and treating that. But there's going to be cost to both. And we're waiting to get that report brought back at the next meeting. Thank you. We voted on this? Okay. Anything else? Okay. Then, Mr. Zackel, do you have any idea, or would you need time to take things back to let us know where we're at with the budget?
So I can provide you with the number. The bylaw themselves would have to be revamped before council could vote on that. But the overall tax increase has been reduced down to 10.91%. And the overall increase for taxes and utility fees has been reduced down to 23.69%.
Thank you. We do know that there are taxes that will be asked to add to our bill that we have no idea what they are yet. The hospital district, there were 6 of them, I believe, that Mr. Zackel told us about last month. So we're not sure about those yet. And we won't know probably for a while. Okay, council, what is your, what would you, Councillor King?
Thank you. I'd like to make one more motion before we close this meeting and address it to Mr. Zackel. If you could come back with some type of report on maybe separating the water, sewer, and garbage as a different, as like payment plan. I don't know the right words, but
we talked about this a little bit earlier. I'm just wondering if I can paraphrase, are you okay, Councillor King, that we asked for a report on moving the sewer and water requests rather than once a year, but onto a 4 times a year billing system, and rather than having it included with the tax notice once a year. I think that was, is that correct? What you're
garbage too, water, sewer, and garbage.
Garbage,
Yeah.
could be, and we just wondered if we could have a report brought back to council on how we could do that. If we're going to do something, I think we need to do it quickly in order to be included in our tax notices and our monthly tax people this year. So is that's okay? Do we have a seconder? Councillor Chong is seconding that. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to that before we vote on it? Go ahead, Councillor Chong.
I would also just like to clarify, because we are proceeding with water metering, by separating it into quarterly, it actually allows us to be more efficient with our user fee billing. So we're just trying to be proactive and get the administrative and logistical aspects sorted beforehand.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to ask for a vote on that one. All in favor of that motion? Thank you very much. And is there anything else? Do we? Mrs. Hilson?
I guess one question for council is if you are going to deliberate and consider the 5-year financial plan, are you doing it at the next regular open council meeting? Are you doing it at a special open meeting? Where and when would council like to have the next deliberation of the budget?
Council, what do you think? We could move that we go to 3rd reading tonight. Can we do that? No, we can't, because we've made some changes. All right, we can't do that. Go ahead, Councillor Poderica.
Thank you, Worship. I would make the motion that we move a 3rd reading at the next regular council meeting Council Chambers?
And that would be on the, what date?
Off the top of my head, I'm going to say it's March 26th. So that would be the March 26th regular open council meeting at 2 p.m. in council chambers.
Thank you very much. Okay, is that a motion? We move it to then, or does that need to be a motion, Mrs. Hilson, or is that a suggestion? A suggestion. Good, thank you. So we can do that without a motion. Is there anything else that anybody would like to bring up tonight? All right, I'm ready for the termination. Councillor Chong is terminating the meeting. Councillor Poderica is seconding it. All in favor? Thank you, everyone.